Wine Antics, and we are live with Wine Antics Live. We are on our third episode already. How the time flies when you're having tons of fun. Today we're actually joined with Mariana from Wineum. I'm gonna get that right by the end of this show.
Wine,
She is
yes.
actually joining in from Barcelona. She is part owner, co-owner of Wineum, right?
Hmm.
And which is a lovely luxury executive wine tour company out of Barcelona, and she's going to share her experiences out there and give us some trip tips as we go forward. So, with that, I want to share first what I'm drinking, and then we'll follow up with the rest of the introduction. So, because we're talking about Barcelona and we're talking about Catalonia wine region, I got a cava, as I
You got
will.
a freshenet.
Yes. Well, this is what Giant had. Um, no kava choppers, as I found out, but Giant had two different kavas. This one was about $12, and I like to share what people can get just about anywhere. So this is a brute, and it's very enjoyable actually. So Mariana, please give us a little introduction of yourself.
Well, Jen, thank you very much, first of all, for inviting me. Um, sup, hello. And yes, very humbled to
Hello.
be a guest here in your Wine Antiques Lives in Husa. Here in Barcelona, we've been doing all sorts of things regarding the wine industry. And it is something that is growing, not just worldwide, but here in particular, it's just a wave that is growing. And I work in tourism, and I've been working in tourism for the past 20 years. And as a foreigner, because I'm actually from Mexico, and after living so many years in the UK, 15 actually,
Wow.
came to live in Barcelona 5 years ago. And whilst I was cycling once between vineyards, I wondered, do people know this? I mean, people just concentrate in the city and stay there and come over and over again. So, do people know what's in the outskirts of Barcelona? And I got interested. So, my background is mostly tourism, it's not the wine industry, nor the spirits field. And we started researching very seriously most of the wine cellars here in the Catalonia, which is the northeast region of Spain. We did a visit of the ones that we thought they would be suitable, and then we started assembling product with very fun things, like perhaps cultural tours, going to these beautiful monasteries, and then a wine taste and a meal, or just fun things like going wine sailing, like we did this morning. We go sailing in front of Barcelona for 3 4 hours, and then we come back. Or a few other things like a bit more like a 4x4 or motor cycling as well that are lots of fun. And we opened this about what's this year and a half ago, and
Oh,
people find us through TripAdvisor or through the website, and we're delighted of how it's going.
awesome. And I can't forget in the introduction. I know you're probably not drinking any wine. Let me say that now, so I won't ask you to show what you have because it's probably about 3 o'clock in the morning there. Um, but we have, last but not least, our resident lifestyle expert, Stub.
Bam. Yeah, as always, last introductions, first in your hearts, right?
Absolutely.
Um, no, Mariana, I'd like to say thank you very much for joining us tonight. We're very looking forward to having you on the show for several weeks. So thanks for joining us.
Only
I am
one.
Stub from corkinvy.com, wine lifestyle expert, sort of funny guy, hopefully. And Jen and I both approach wine from a little bit of a more irreverent place, even though we different irreverent places. But glad to be here and glad to be chatting with you, Mariana, about what you do over there
Thank you.
in Western Europe.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yes.
Stub.
So I thought I would lead off the questioning because I think one of the
Hmm.
most um, maybe the most desirable question from somebody that I've never been to Spain, I've never been to Barcelona, anywhere around there actually. So it's like I want to know what it's like to go on a wine tour if I were to arrive in Barcelona. Like, what is it like? What areas do you go through? What do you see? What do you generally taste? Coming out of Barcelona and going into the wine regions.
It's interesting because when you are waiting for your suitcases to come out, there is a board or a huge printout in one of the walls with a huge vineyard, and it's not something that you relate to Barcelona and wine, like Barcelona football, Barcelona, and many other things, but perhaps not wine. And most of our customers are from the US, actually. They find us either before they arrive, most of them, yes, or they find us while they're here. And then we need to set up things very quickly for them for tomorrow, for the next day.
Right.
And it's we do travel a maximum of about 2 hours, but from 2 hours by car, for instance, each way, and that's just nothing. Most of the time, we just tend to go either to 45-minute drive away from Barcelona, which is the Penedès area, home
Hmm.
of Cava,
And I did
which
post
is
a link for that. If anybody would like to know where that is, I posted a link. I had to look myself, so.
well in our website we have a few posts regarding what's Cava, how it's made, which is done in exactly the same way as champagne, but that's another subject to cover another time. And then yes, we just travel. As for instance, yesterday that we went sailing, we tried to make it as time efficient as possible, and we traveled 25 minutes to the north of Barcelona, go
Oh,
to the marina, hop on a 49 footer, go sailing for 4 hours, have a light snack with lovely juices, no alcohol, and then we come back and then we spend about 3 hours in a winery, just wine tasting a range of six premium wines because just three is not enough. So we like to throw wine taste overboard. And that we go and visit the underground cellars and the areas where the bottles are, sleeping for a while, whilst looking at the Med, for instance. And yes, we covered the Dio Aleya, which is a very, very tiny denomination of origin. And there's 12 denominations of origin here in Catalonia. Can you believe it? That's
I
just
can.
unbelievable. That's just unreal because everyone is different height, different humidity. If it's facing the sea, if it's not facing the sea, so really the wines do taste very, very different from one area to another. And we mostly cover the Penedès area, the home of Cava, which is 45 minutes away, because of the diversity of wine cellars. Oh, there's about 200 wine cellars there,
Oh.
from Freshenet, from the one that you're drinking, which is
Oh.
we passed by it,
Oh.
and yes, of course,
Oh.
passed by it. And when we're showing to customers, they say, "Oh, it's so big, it looks like a movie studio." It's massive. It is massive.
I bet.
So we tend to not for a particular reason. We tend to avoid the very big wineries because we don't like the feeling of sitting on a choo-choo train and go with hundreds of other people at a visit. We try to make it very, very more private and visit another one of the big wineries called Codorniu.
Hmm.
And Codorniu is also massive, it's very big, but because they have an amazing building, a modernist building, and they have a cover bar. We just have a table set over there at the end, and we have three cavas, enjoy the beauty of the building, and be fun. Let's go to the next very charming and family owned, family run small winery. And that's what we like to do. And we go as further 2 hours drive to the Priorat wine region, which for me is it's not for everyone. Not everybody knows what the Priorat wine is, and it is really my favorite area, my favorite wine, and they specialize on reds, very full-bodied reds, and they're south on the way to Tarragona.
I think that's probably what Stubb is drinking.
While you drink it tonight, Stub. Yes, you got your maps there.
I do, but I can't hear Stubb. Can't hear you. But you were just talking about. I'm gonna butcher these too. So where are we
Oh,
at? Can you see?
Hmm.
There we go. So you got,
Oh, yes.
so here, ooh, finger, Barcelona, and
Yes.
then say that word for me, Mariana.
Would it be Penedès?
Penedès and Pri Privot
Priorat.
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 I try to
Priorat
say
on
everything with a
sound.
French
Correct.
accent. There you go, Stubb. I can hear you.
Yes.
So very, very close.
Well, no, I had myself on mute.
Well, don't do that.
I was trying to somewhat diplomatically interrupt Mariana when she was speaking. Mariana, as far as your tourism business, you said you've been in tourism for 20 years, which I find hard to believe that you started a career at 6 years old. Number one.
Thank you.
Number two, your focus is on tourism, and you've admitted to us and even early on here that like wine is not your focus. But just from kind of getting to know you over the last couple of months since we kind of met, it seems like a lot of your tours, especially from U.S. Customers, focus somewhat on wine a little bit.
They only focus on
Are
wine.
you finding that's more and more true? They really want the wine, but they also love the adventure, because I think the first time I met you, actually, you were doing a periscope from like a sailboat as you were sailing between one winery and another with a tour you were leading. So you're doing many other things around the wine, but it seems like, are you finding more and more are focused on the wine regions and going to wineries?
Actually, it's called Wineum for a reason. It's called Wineum for a reason. It's everything with wine.
Right.
Either art, culture, a bit of adventure, gastronomy, and with wine. So, although it's not my background, it's starting to become my passion and getting interested in the field. Yes, yes, yes. So it's everything surrounding wine.
Yeah.
Hence the word wine. Yes.
So
Right. Yeah, that I think that's really great.
so
Go ahead, Jen.
no, it's fine. So how does like when I was talking about this show, I was very excited not only to talk about the wine, but talk about the food from Barcelona and the Mediterranean, because those are the things like from watching you on Periscope, just seeing on your personal account and on the professional Wineum account, like the views and the food and the wine, it all seems very ingrained into what Barcelona brings to travelers or gives to travelers. And I'm glad to hear that Wineum kind of takes that whole encompassing approach.
Hmm.
So please tell me a little bit about the food too. I want to hear about that too. Honestly, do you,
Well, it's really wholesome food. We don't cut corners. It is a full McCoy of proper homemade food. They the presentation of stews or steaks or salads or fish, or they tend to be quite raw, um, not necessarily prettily presented, but the flavors are unbelievable.
hmm,
They're really proper. The picked up tomatoes from around the corner, ingredients from the sea that were swimming this morning,
hmm,
and it's really, really fresh. And it's part of what really brought me to this area. The gastronomy. It's once when I came here as a visitor once. As a tour operator, they took us to these different places, and we were eating from different glasses. Do you eat from glasses? There was a waiter with glasses, and so it was savory entrees, and then mains eating from glasses, and then your desserts eating inside a glass. So that way of presenting food was for me was very new. So when I came to live here about 5 years ago, I started exploring these pleasures of life,
hmm.
which of course you hear. It's sunny. People just want to relax, and what are they looking at? I mean, or looking forward to is a proper paella, or is a particular made rice. You can have fideuà, which is one of my favorites, which is a very short pasta. It could be in black sauce or without sauce. they use the octopus sauce. It's like paella, but it's black, and
Mm.
you always mix that with a proper
Yay.
rosy sparkling. It's discovering cava for me was drinking the real thing. Um, it seems to be a shame that the beverages that they get exported first or people get to know are not the best quality. You really have to go in the place to try the real product. For instance, the freshenet that you're drinking now is a
Don't
brut,
ruin it. Don't ruin
and
it for me.
it's okay and it's fine, and is produced by the hundreds of millions of bottles.
I know.
And sometimes the brut, which means that it's slightly sweet. Um, if you go to the brut nature, uh, oh, that I just found. I've just got to know it here, and mixing that with the local, I mean, a proper chilled bottle of cava with this, the local cuisine is just a recipe for I mean, not just success, but people keep coming back for it.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty true. With if we're thinking about Europe, that's the mentality of wine of like wine. Keep the best stuff in house. That's why I always recommend if somebody wants to taste wine, go for what is the house wine or the table wine when they're in
Mm-hmm.
Europe, because that's the best stuff. Unfortunately, we I guess they assume that Americans don't have the best palate, or they're just really smart to keep everything in house in general. And also, like the small batch production is also harder to distribute and get all the way
Absolutely.
overseas. It takes a level of production, but I'd like to believe that if I were, a country that loved wine like Spain does, I would keep the best things in house.
The wineries we go and visit, they do export quite a lot. But again, because they're family run, they're small ones, and they produce from, I go to wineries that produce from 12,000 bottles a
Mm,
year, I mean, to 300,000,
wow.
million 200. I do visit this big one that produces 60 million bottles. Um,
Oh my
but
goodness.
it's, yes, they're tiny, tiny productions. And although some of them get exported, yes, of course, they're diluted and they're not easy to find.
I had read up on kava before we had the conversation, and I found out that kava is pretty close in production and creation, or fermentation and creation, as champagne is. How do you Have you had many bottles of champagne, and how would you compare it for somebody that maybe hasn't ever tried a cava? They're made in a traditional method, which is
Mhm.
similar. So how would you compare cava to more traditional champagne?
In the way that it's accessible to buy or this flavor and procedure.
Flavor and accessibility.
Cava, Cava, in the past years, I mean, we've always been able to
Interesting.
buy all sorts of champagne brands. Not from the supermarket, but the specialty stores worldwide. Champagne, it is successful. Cava, I don't think it had that boom.
Okay.
It's just starting to now for us to get to know Cava. In the fact that flavor wise, you can drink Cava that is either a Brut Nature, Grand Reserve, or sorry, a Brut Nature Reserve,
Mm.
which is it hasn't been asleep that those many years, those many months, or a Brut Grand Reserve. Why Brut Grand Reserve? Because it needs to have just a little bit of sugar to stay 5 years in the wine cellars,
Hmm.
and just uncorking that is a beauty. I have no problem in my life never ever drinking champagne again.
No.
It's something. It's that exquisite.
Hmm.
It's
Um,
it's
I
it's
actually.
no. I will drink champagne. Of course I will.
Oh,
But
okay. I
it's
was gonna say. I'm like, I
no no
can't
no
get
no
behind
no no
that.
no
Honestly,
no no
I
no
love me some champagne.
no. It's not a positive comment. No, but it's just to underline the quality and when you buy a bottle of cava, is to be drunk, not to be
Not to be held.
exactly.
Yeah.
That has to be occurred within a year. It has to be uncorked within a year, and just the quality is unbelievable. It has really surprised me, and of course the price. We can have the luxury of opening a few bottles of cava a week, no problem. Unlike a champagne one, for instance.
I know. Like this one, I actually found that between champagne, prosecco, and
Yeah, I think
cava.
also.
Ooh, oh, he's having some problems. Oh well, that's what live streaming is. But I actually
Am I?
prefer a little bit of a
Yeah.
sweeter cava. Surprisingly, like I'm drinking the brute,
Hmm.
I tend to enjoy it a little bit sweeter, and I've even tried even sweeter than this because bone dry cava to me, I can't drink straight. Like I can put it in a mimosa, for example,
Hmm.
but I really like it just brute. I like it a little bit sweeter.
I agree because it's perfect for an afternoon drink, like a Chardonnay would be. It is
Hmm.
just easy to drink. You don't need the meal to enjoy cava. And for me, there is a flaw with cava. They're just too small. For
Oh,
me, that's a personal size. That is a flaw. And yes, that I agree with Brut in that sense. It's perfect to drink, and it's you don't need a proper just mix it with a snack or with a main meal. It's Brut is nice. However, it's a Brut Natur. I got to like that one too.
what does
It's
nature mean? Natural?
um, which is spells like nature,
Yeah,
and they in here in Catalonia they pronounce it Brut Nature, which is Brut Nature.
yeah.
And no, it means that it has remained further months
Oh,
under the cellars, so
gotcha.
it's a bit more refined.
More aging.
Hmm. Oh,
Okay.
I'm lying to you. I'm lying to you. I'm getting confused.
Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me.
No, that's reserve and grand reserve. I'm awfully sorry. Brut means that when you uncork the cava, you either top it up with the same liquid or you put just a little bit of sugar.
Ah, okay.
Uh, I'm sorry, I was getting confused on the two terms. And Brut has just a little bit of sugar, rather just topped up with the same liquid, the same cava.
And it's so funny that all these different like semi-sweet or semi-deck or whatever in French, like they all mean different brute, very dry, extra dry. I've seen those things. They don't mean more dry, honestly. Like you really have to check what it all means. I've just learned that trying different types of cava tends to help. I started very dry, like I did with prosecco, what I thought was the driest, and then I've kind of moved up. But prosecco, I can go bone dry and very enjoyable. I think that it brings out the characteristics when you have a little bit of that sweetness. And I tend to like to drink my sparkling wines by itself. I don't unless I'm doing some tailgating or something. Yes, tailgating with some mimosas. I enjoy to drink sparkling wine just by itself in a glass, just like this. Welcome back, Stub.
You're back, stop.
Maybe
Can we hear you?
can are you able?
What? Can you hear me?
Yes!
Yes, we
Yay!
Can
can.
you hear me?
We
Yay?
can.
I've been driving
Nay?
this conversation. It feels very weird.
Yes.
Yay!
Yay! I'll I'll drink to be exact. I'm very sorry.
Yay! And
Yeah,
if
do that.
anybody's wondering why we're talking so much about kava, it's because
I have all of these great questions to ask.
well, good. Well, you will have just give me 1 second,
Like,
and
why aren't
and
you
you will have
talking to
all
that
of the questions.
sexy blue-eyed guy?
And we want to know what's in your glass because I forgot to even ask you
Yes, we
that.
also want to see that.
So if anybody wonders why we're actually talking so much about kava, is because Catalunya and Parendes.
Penedès.
There you go. I mean, I'm being honest. I will butcher it, so
Yes.
I'm just gonna point to you. You help me out.
And I'll tell you Penedès.
It's one of the top producers of kava. So we're
That's awesome.
talking to somebody that is directly in line with the home of kava. So I felt like we had to pay a little homage to it.
Homage.
Homage to it. So stop. What are your questions? What I mean, you've been very quiet. I don't know what to do right now. Oh no.
Yeah, I am. I am obviously. I'm having some tech issues. Oddly enough, looks like my signals are great. I am freezing on my screen. I'm hearing most of what y'all are both saying. And enjoying the conversation, wanting to interject and ask you questions here and there. But yeah, that I'm quiet. I get it. I'm sorry.
You can ask while we hear you.
Oh no, he froze again. Ah.
I just I do love just hearing Mariana talk about what she's doing there in Spain, and it's just amazing. And I also love the fact.
I want to hear him. Like I want
I
to
want
know
to
what
hear
he
him
wants to
too.
know. I'm like on the edge here. Oh oh. He's trying. He's gone to the black screen of death, and it went out.
Oh,
But that's what
I said
Oh
seriously.
wait, we have audio
I
now
hear
for
him.
you, Stub.
I basically asked a question that was the audio equivalent of the Gettysburg Address.
Oh
So
no.
just answer something great. No, I was saying that I love that Mariana's focus in her life and career was not wine really until she got. We can see her enthusiasm for wine as she guides, her clients and customers to the wine focused tourism. And like, I love seeing that enthusiasm from her for the work she's doing now and where she's taking her customers. Whether it's, we're going to go sailing and then we're going to 3 wineries today, but it seems wine focused. And I love seeing not only but her enthusiasm for learning more about wine. It's infectious and really awesome.
Thank you very much, Stub.
I agree because we talked to you on Blab probably what 2 months ago.
Just
Not
for
even.
what,
Oh
though?
yeah.
Yes.
And we had talked about wine and wine and wine and wine, and that's what we were all talking about. You're like, it's not where I come from, kind of thing. And now you're starting to get into it, and the passion is conveying, and our little wine geek hearts are palpitating right now.
How good is that?
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, she was like, yeah, I don't really know wine, but we're here at this winery and it's beautiful. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You're taking these people to these most beautiful
places.
out of the way wineries after a hike or a sail or whatever. It's amazing. And you're giving people once in a lifetime unforgettable opportunities and experiences when they travel with you. And I really adore that.
So
Thank you, thank you. In fact, if I may say, I may not have the scientific knowledge or the previous interest, but of course, my passion for going to see the setting, how the locals grow organically their vineyards, and just being there, it of course it just oozes passion. It does. Of course, it is passionate. In fact, yesterday after sailing that we went to after sailing
after I went sailing.
after sailing we went to visit the wine cellars, and the customers were from Orlando,
Oh.
and they said, it's amazing, I've been to Napa and it has nothing to do with what you're doing here. And I say, well, it's
Right.
sort of buy the get the T-shirt, buy the thing. It's like, no, it's not here. It's not like that in here. No, in here is oh, we have a passion in how it's produced and how we want to mix different wines with certain percentage of these grapes, a certain percentage of this one, and this one. We'll do. We'll put it on. We'll let it mature a little bit longer to make it a Grand Reserve. It's no, it's very innovative what they present here. Very, very innovative. It's not like leaving the wine in barrels of oak for 5 years, just like sort of real things. No, they're very innovative here. And this tiny wine cellar produces perhaps 25 different wines with the same grapes. Some European, some locals. Yes, it's as although I don't I don't have the sommelier pairing knowledge or the enologist knowledge or just basics. It is sharing the wine is the, this passion is for me is fantastic.
So that actually made me think of a question because from what I know from traveling from America to Europe in general, I've had experience in the UK. I've had very minor experience in France, but from what I've heard, going international, it is not the same as we expect here in America for wine tourism. When we go visiting wineries in America, we expect that they're ready to receive guests, that they're open
Agree.
for winery, they're open for visitors for a very set and continuous amount of time. Now in
Mhm.
France that varies. Like sometimes you have to know somebody. Sometimes they're only open from 10
Mm.
to 12 on a random Tuesday. How does that compare to your area? Are they open for tourism quite regularly, often?
That's what made us choose some wineries compared to others, because some, although beautiful, either they were very restrictive in the opening hours, in the amount of people we have to take, or that we need to be flexible.
Yeah.
We need to be flexible, and just like with the other things that I do, I also work with very small accommodation places, even for small hotels of four-bedroom hotels. I mean, you need to be flexible. And in wineries, they're open 7 days a week.
Okay.
They some open later than others. But what is important is that they allow us to go for a two people visit.
Oh.
It's, they don't have to be a minimum of 8, 10. That is essential because we move premium, but small numbers. It's not, come on, let's jump on the bus and let's go. And we're about with 40 um, customers. Actually, there's bigger wine cellars like Freshenet or Codorniu, which are accustomed to deal with hundreds of visitors a day. And where I go, they will perhaps put my two people together with another group or just have a visit for the two of them. No problem.
Hmm. And that's
So,
go ahead. Sorry, Steph.
Mariana, have you noticed, are there more wineries, at least in the areas that you're taking your clients, are there more wineries that are opening up to larger groups and, for lack of a better word, commercializing a little more? Or are most of them fighting that and keeping that to the small groups of 2 or 4 or 6 or 8 at the most
No,
for their tours and tastings?
they're getting open to the idea, and it has been recent. It has been within the last 5 years. However, not all of them are ready because it costs to be open
Yeah,
for
it does.
tourism. It doesn't necessarily immediately represent an income because a wine tour shouldn't be focused on selling wine at the end of the visit. That's not the main aim. If it happens, great, but that's not the aim. Is for the
Okay.
customer to remember the brand and to buy it at home, or to tell the friends that they've been to this winery. That's the aim. However, our customers tend to buy boxes and boxes at the end of the visit. But the main aim, that's a side effect. That's not the main. And some are not properly prepared for visits because they either have somebody in charge but don't speak English,
Mm.
Right.
and and that's that's mm, doesn't encourage me to go and visit. I mean, I need to have some sort of basic setup, which is opening hours, accepting small parties, speak English.
Okay.
Besides the fact that it's going to be obviously a very charming area, charming wine cellar in a beautiful place with amazing wines. That those four have
Well,
to be.
let me ask you a smaller question then. You mentioned the English thing, and you did mention that a lot of your clients are from the U.S.
Hmm.
And probably don't know Spanish or anything close to proper Spanish or even slight conversational Spanish. And I include myself in that. I can say a few words, and I learned a lot more Spanish when I went to a Dominican hospital several years ago than I thought I ever would remember from school. But I'm saying, like, I took 2 years of Spanish in college, grew up in Texas, and my Spanish is horrible at best. Um,
Okay.
but I'm saying, but have you taken clients to wineries, smaller wineries, where the commercial part was not a huge thing, where you had to translate, and how was that experience? If you have done that, how was that experience if you were translating from Spanish to English for some of your clients?
In I've done it, and it's not that is difficult, but it's we do appreciate to share the attention to the customer, and
Okay,
and as I said, most of the customers, yes, they are from the US, some Scandinavian, some from the UK. So English is essential,
Yeah.
and as being my backbone being tourism, where even the taxi driver should speak English. That is
okay,
something that I do ask them to please to have somebody who welcomes us
okay,
and speaks English. Yeah.
So you're talking. You
okay,
mentioned that
great.
it's important for the wineries that you go to visit to not necessarily push the sales, which
Mm-hmm.
can happen very organically, and I completely agree with you. Like the bottom line isn't the sales, because no customer wants to feel that way.
No.
But in line with that, if most of your clients are English speaking tourists, people coming from overseas, how does that translate to shipping? Like, how do people get their wine home when they visit Barcelona? Is it mostly in their carry on or their stowaways in the baggage, or are they shipping? Is shipping easy?
It is easy, and is split half and half really, because some of them take few bottles. Actually, like yesterday, some of them take few bottles to still consume within the trip.
Yeah.
To take back inside the
Yes.
suitcase, as long as it's not a carry-on on one of those low-cost airlines, has to be a proper hold luggage, and you put it in
Sure.
in your socks. I mean, nothing that we haven't done before.
Right.
And shipping, yes, the wine sellers ship very, very easily. And I believe they use a company called Wine Cargo, Vino Cargo,
Mm.
and
Okay.
they most states of the US, or even the Scandinavia, the UK, they can ship for a base price of about €90 per box. Excuse me, €90 per box of six, plus the price of the wine. Um,
So they can
Okay.
collect it from multiple different wineries and then put it in a box and ship it home.
and we just take the order, for instance, and it will be in your home in about 3 weeks' time.
That's ideal. I
Uh,
love that idea. I mean,
Nice.
it gets
Absolutely.
very expensive to ship from a single winery. Like the idea of bundling everything together and then shipping it out is the way I would go if I were
Yeah,
overseas. So that's
yeah,
great to
it's
hear.
very super convenient, and especially it's on the benefit of the wine seller if they happen to, okay, we want to sell just two bottles. It's not a, you want how many boxes? Okay, and so
Okay,
the,
let's rack them up. We can do this.
absolutely. Oh yes, indeed, yes. And the other day, yeah, some people, a couple took 6 boxes. Like,
Oh,
why not 6 boxes?
well,
So
how often are you there? And like you said, and like we talked about, some of the best things you're going to taste
I love
stay
that.
within the country. And if you want to enjoy it for the next year, definitely pick up your bottles. I learned that. Trust me. I'm the one who's
Yes,
trying to smuggle like 6 bottles in her stowaway bag. Trust me.
no, it's good that they're making it easier for the visitor to come on. Now that you are there, I mean, consume, buy it, and it'll be sent on DHL, UPS, God knows which one. It will be arrived to your home in a few
Absolutely.
weeks' time.
Absolutely. Well, I think
Mhm.
Stub is frozen again. But I think this is a great point to kind of cut off the recorded portion. But we're going to
Yes.
keep the after party going. So if anybody in the chat has any questions, stay with us and we will move on to that portion. Otherwise, thank you so much, Mariana, for joining us
No, I
for.
wanted to thank you. I
Oh,
wanted to thank in the recorded bit that it was just humbling that you invited it, that you did so much digital marketing noise, and on the
Aw.
It's so
Great
true.
being here.
It's a lot of noise. No, but we love talking to you, and we love living vicariously through you
Amazing.
and through your eyes, the way you see wine tourism. It's so different from how we see it. Again, we are here every Thursday. I like to say every Thirsty Thursday is for Wine Antics, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6:30 Pacific Standard Time. Thank you again, and everybody out there, cheers.
Thank you.